Hello and welcome to the Latrice Show. Y'all, my guest today already, I'm like, we are already having a good time before we're even getting started. If you have been praying about seeing restoration, new beginnings, open doors, and just coming together as a community, as a family, then you are in the right place today because my special guest in the Be Inspired Cafe is making waves right now in her community. She's launching out in business and so much more. So get your notepad. I always tell y'all that because I always know there's going to be some diamond nuggets being dropped. So get your notepad. When we come back, we're jumping into the Be Inspired Cafe, and I will let you know who my special guest is on today's show. We'll be right back. I spent years living all the way in the box, afraid to step out, afraid to truly grab hold of my dream. And now I am breaking through, and I invite you to join me.
Your breakthrough starts now. Coming up on today's show, get ready to be inspired and transformed with our featured guests. Find out what's trending and get advice on life's daily challenges with Erica's top tips of the day. All of this and so much more coming up. So stay tuned. This is your one-stop shop for inspiration. The Erica Latrice Show. And now, here's your host, Erica.
Welcome back. All right, it is time to jump into the Be Inspired Cafe. And my special guest today, Krishanda Royal Jones, is going to be dropping some nuggets. Her motto, her mission is restoring families and changing lives one step at a time. She is the founder of Created with Resilience, LLC. She has a passion to assist families in rebuilding and restoring their purpose. She is a certified family life educator with a BS in family and community services, as well as a master's in clinical counseling with an emphasis in addictions. Y'all get your notepad, lean a little closer, get ready, and welcome with me into the Be Inspired Cafe, Krishanda Royal Jones. How are you doing today?
Hi, I am doing so well. How are you?
All is well. Listen, I feel like you have such an incredible mission. I feel like right now we're seeing in many fronts so much division and people feeling like they need to compete and work apart, but you're bringing the family and rebuilding it together. So first of all, hats off to you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yes. So can you tell us just a little bit about yourself for those that may not have connected with you yet and want to learn a little more about what you do?
Sure. Again, my name is Krishanda Jones, and I am a certified family life educator. And with this, I have always had a passion and a love to work for the family. Myself, I am married, and I have 5 children and 6 grandkids, and I am just so happy to do this type of field. I feel like this is my mission. And so with this, having my own experiences and the education to back it up, just to be able to help families in a lot of criteria, a lot of areas, whether it's financial, whether it's just, smart goals, short-term goals, long-term goals, whatever a family needs to do, and working with each part of the family individually or collectively as a whole. And that's what I'm here to do.
I want to get into this. I think like what you just said is so powerful because I would venture to say that there has been, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I'm not going to come with stats. You might have some, but it feels like we're living in a time where there's just an attack on families where things that I remember even as I was growing up, now I'm starting to feel like my parents, because, they say back in my day,
right.
Things that I feel like were just the norm or things that were celebrated. Now we see even in trending news where men are being shamed for taking care of their families or for being there for their children. So I would love to know from you, like, where did that passion start? When did you know that you were called to help families unveil and walk in their purpose?
Absolutely. So for me, I had my first child at 17, and, understanding that there are so many dynamics just in that, and thinking back on my life and saying, well, what would I have needed for that? What would my mom have needed for that, or my dad? Or how could we sit together as a family and just say, hey, what do each person need? Because we have to understand that whatever that family situation is at the time, that it affects everyone, whether it's a child, whether it's a mom, it's a dad, it's a sibling, grandparents, because we know these days that our family is built up of so many different components, a godmother, whoever that is, but we all are affected by situations. And so I think one of the big pieces is, for me, is just learning how to communicate with each other, just being genuine and true, and then finding the help that we need.
I want to start with that help because I believe one of the things that you share even on your website, which we'll talk about that in a second, you talk about one step at a time. And I think
Mhm.
like oftentimes we can get so overwhelmed. We have a vision, we have these
Yes.
goals, but being so overwhelmed by all that it's going to take, it's hard to even think about it as one step at a
Mhm.
time. So you mentioned SMART goals. What is a tip or what are your thoughts around that person that maybe they're in a place right now where they're ready to see change, but they're just not quite sure where to begin? Where can we start?
I always think is, and I think a great example of this is, I was teaching classes at a pregnancy center, and one of the things I like to do with women, and one of the questions that I like to ask them is, "What would you like to be when you grow up?" And I say that although they are older, and sometimes they chuckle and laugh and say, "Well, what do I want to be when I grow up?" I just like to connect to that piece of them, that had a dream, that had a vision. And, sometimes we get caught in being moms, and we're caught in being wives, or in our businesses. And this can be something that work as well for men, too. But we get so caught up in different things, and we lose focus and sight on the things that we just wanted to do. And I think sometimes if we can just focus and look back on those things that are passions, those things that we love to do, kind of searching ourselves, praying and saying, "Hey, God, what is my purpose?" I think those are kind of the first steps. And when you find, because a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm too old to go to school," or, "I can't afford to go to school." And I think my life is a complete testimony of, hey, I thought at one time I couldn't do all these things, but little step by step, I was able to work through the process.
Look, we're about to talk to the ladies now because there are so many things that stand out to me about you. For one, depending on when y'all are catching this, you may miss this, but the fact that you talk about like this mother-daughter connection.
Hmm.
I love that you have discovered the fountain of youth because there's no way you are a grandmother.
I am.
Yes, I want to talk to young, it doesn't matter what age you are. I want to
Mhm.
talk to the women because I know that there are some things that whether they were instilled in us as a young woman or we didn't have the opportunity to receive it. There is something so beautiful, I believe, about femininity and being
Mhm.
thankful for being dainty. And you got the pink on today and you're just looking
Yes.
so gorgeous. What are
Thank
some
you.
of those tips, some of those seeds, maybe even that your own mother sowed into you that you're now
Mhm.
able to pull on now as an adult and apply that to your life? What tips do you have for us?
Absolutely. My mother is a very classy and elegant woman. And not only that is she beautiful on the outside, but she's beautiful on the inside as well. And that big thing that I've always picked up with her is being strong, being graceful and strong. And so, not saying that you don't go through anything or there's not trials or tribulations, but it's about how you handle those things. And so, she wears so many hats as being a pastor, and running for office, and so many different things that she's doing in her life. And so, just that piece that you speak of, that being dainty and being feminine, being able to hold on to that piece, but at the same time just understanding who you are, whether that's your struggles or whether those are your triumphs. You just need to stay connected with yourself.
So speaking of the connection, I think it's so beautiful when I see mothers, fathers too, but we're talking to the women right now, mothers who have managed to go after their goals, to step
Mhm.
into their purpose, to lead an example to other people in the community as you're doing, and even be that example to our children. So what are some of those go-to maybe even if it's like your favorite scripture or that favorite quote or that thing that you lean on that
Mhm.
helps you show up each day in all of those different capacities that you show up.
Yeah, I think for me, it's always the scripture of, I could do all things through Christ that strengthen me. Also, that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are his works, and this I know of well. That always seemed to keep me in a place of when I feel like I can't do it. I always know that I can rely on the strength of God. When I feel like, oh, why do I do it? And, I'm not worthy of this, but I learned that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And I think I think another thing for people to understand is that, yeah, a lot of us have the same jobs. We can do the same thing, but there is no one else who will do it just like our own self will do it. So 5 people can have the same job, but nobody will bring you what you bring to the table.
That's a mic drop moment. Look, Krishanda said, if you got your word with you, open up right now. Can you go to
First of
Matthew?
all.
Because she started dropping some nuggets. And I want to
Mhm.
talk about that too, like that belief that if someone else is doing it, that now means I can't. That there's that
Mhm.
poverty mindset that there's not enough, and that not
Right.
just financially, but this coming from a place of abundance, right?
Mhm.
So I would love to hear from you. Was there ever a time where you questioned or second guessed your own purpose in stepping out? And if so, what did you do to get past that?
Absolutely. Plenty of times. I still have moments now where I'm like, am I meant for this? Can I do this? Even with sometimes putting events together and you want it to be successful. But I always even say to myself with any event, with any thing that I do, whoever was meant to be there will be there. I don't care if it's one person, if it's 100 people. Whoever needed whatever you need to give, they'll be there. And so I think that's the biggest thing. And a lot of things I didn't start later on in my life. Getting my master's degree was something that I just recently did. So I just feel like nothing is impossible. Yes, it may take a little time. Yeah, there are roadblocks. Nobody said that, the weapons would not form, but they just won't prosper. So we just have to continue to just strengthen our own selves up, even if nobody else will.
You had better preach. Okay, now we're in Isaiah, folks. If y'all missed it, just flip back.
Right.
Look, I feel like you just said so many good things that I want to touch on because
Mhm.
it's not always easy. Sometimes
Mhm.
we can feel like because we have this vision, because we have this idea, and I
Right.
know Krishanda now we taking it to church right now. Some of y'all don't even, you're like Isaiah, what? You can
Yeah.
find it later. It's okay.
Yeah.
These are life principles. One of the things that you just talked about was doing something, and even if it's not the exact outcome that you're expecting, doing this event or whatever, you're
Mhm.
still going to show up as your best. You're still going to show up and give it everything. And I have so many stories about showing up to empty rooms, and I'm gonna come in
Uh-huh.
that empty room like it's 1,000 people
Right.
in here. What talk to me about like the mindset, or maybe is there something that you have found that helps you in those moments if you're feeling inadequate, or in those moments where you're kind of nervous, like will anyone even be here or whatever that
Mhm.
is? What's your go-to to help you still show up in excellence?
I think it's always, I think my answer to a lot of things will be just be honest with yourself and just be. I think sometimes we have high expectations. We want to see things the way that we envisioned it. And so I think sometimes just even being humble enough to say, well, hey, if it's one person, then they were able to get all the information, and they are able to get from point A to point B with this information that was given. I'm a person that love to talk with people, especially women, and just trying to find that thing in them that they want to do. So I think that is the big piece of encouragement. I don't think nervousness ever goes away. You just love what you do, you be confident in what you do, and I think the rest will follow.
That's good. And that's real. Like I see people that are at the top of their field, as anyone else would say they are at the top of their field. I
Mhm.
can't remember who was being interviewed. It was an NBA player. I think it was Giannis. And he was saying, "Oh, I get nervous at every every game." It's like, you're the MVP, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I would love to talk about this too. When we start thinking about our purpose, or how do we know when we're being called in a certain arena versus like, like, why are you doing this versus
Mm-hmm.
doing something totally different? What was that like for you, or how were you able to decide that this is what you wanted to do and you were going to
Mm-hmm.
have the faith to step out and do it? How did that process work?
Well, for me, I can sometimes be a procrastinator in a lot of things. So just like with planning this mother-daughter luncheon, I had this dream, and thoughts were coming in the middle of the night and putting things together. So the first thing I did, I use Facebook sometimes as accountability. And what I will do is I will put it out there, and I'm saying, okay, I'm coming on at 5 just to even do a live. And so I hold myself accountable, because I'm like, now that people have seen it, they are in expectation of something. And so I put it out there that, an event is coming soon. And so people started looking at it, and in anticipation, expecting the next thing. So I knew, okay, I put it out there. Now I got to go with it. And as far as my purpose, I think a lot of times our testament, the life that we live, our struggles, our issues, our pains, those things that we've gone through are just examples to give to other people. So I think those are our callings. Those things that we've been through are to help someone else.
Listen, that was like, we building a meal right now. That's the cherry or something,
Yeah.
because you talked about the thought of like comparison, or feeling like if someone else is doing it, then it's too
Mhm.
saturated. I can't. But the other
Mhm.
beautiful thing that you just shared there is getting that accountability to bring it to pass, even if we don't know exactly how it's going to come together.
Mhm.
And the final thing, I'm putting the meal back together for those of you that missed it, was understanding those things that light you up, that come natural to you, the things that are firing you up, where sometimes we can take it lightly.
Mhm.
And so, if you ever deal with, because I feel like this is kind of in the arena of the people that you support, when you deal with people that maybe feel that they're not qualified to do the thing that lights them up, or that to do the thing that they're excited about, what kind of advice would you give to someone that's disqualified themselves? What would you say to them?
Looking at my own life, the job that I have now, I work in even in homeless shelters, and I talk to the young ladies there all the time, and I ask them, what do you want to be? Because sometimes it only takes one person to say a thing, to sow a seed in your life, to speak faith where it activates a person to say, well, hey, I can do this. I just think, for anyone, just hearing someone else's story, and just seeing where they're coming from, and being able to say to them, hey, this is what I did, this is where I came from. Because my big motto is, I never know when I'm going to sit on the other side where I'm going to need assistance, I'm going to need help. And so I always try to treat people with respect, and integrity. And so just talking with a person and saying, hey, I don't care what you're going through. It is never too late. I don't care the age. It doesn't matter.
It's the not too late for me, because
Mhm.
I feel like so often society can tell us it's too late for you, or this is the age of cutoff, and at this
Right.
age, you're no longer of service. And
Mhm.
I think something that's so beautiful, even about your logo for your company, is this butterfly.
Mhm.
And this channel is New Beginnings, so you already know I love the New Beginnings and what it really represents. So
Mhm.
talk to me a little bit about that, the butterfly, and what does that represent to you? And
Mhm.
even when you think about New Beginnings, why is that significant?
Even for me with the butterfly, I think that is the best description of my life and others. Something can start off as might not be the most beautiful situation. You might have not had the most beautiful circumstance, but all of this can take some time. Life has a way of healing us, and that's why my business is called Created with Resilience, because all of us have this piece of resilience in us, that we can take the most ugliest, the most tainted thing, our lives, or how we feel about ourselves, and we give it some time. It's a process. It's the going through the cocoon and that process, and then finally we look up one day and we're this beautiful butterfly. We've come to where we're trying to go or where we're trying to get to, and those things that were tainted and ugly are now beautiful. And that's that resilience that we were blessed with.
That's powerful. And another thing that it makes me think about is even the lies that we can tell ourselves. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, in the arena that you work in, where you're able to be right there in front of people and hearing their stories and hearing the reason why they can't do this or this didn't happen. Does anything or thing stand out to you that you hear often, like a lie that we often tell ourselves that can keep us from really walking into our truest level that we are capable of walking in?
I think that's always something I always hear is that I'm not qualified. I hear that a lot. I'm not qualified. I look at my mother's life, and even with her growing up in the projects and growing up for with a family that sometimes dealt with poverty and things like that, and looking at her life now from where she started to who she is now. I look at my life, and when I felt like I wasn't qualified to do certain things, and now I'm able to reach out to people and and get them on programs and things like that. It has nothing to do with education. Education is great. I think you should go for it. But even if we don't have the education, we have the story, and I think that's important. Don't say that you don't qualify or you don't have what it takes, because everything you need is already in you.
That that right there, the story.
Yeah.
Too often we can discount and think that what we've gone through. I hear this a lot, like what we've gone through is not enough. Like it's not as good as,
Mhm.
so and so. They did this. And we never know how our own story is going to relate to someone else. The
Yeah.
things that we think are so small.
Hmm.
Um, so has there ever been an experience in your life, something maybe that you've overcome that you didn't think was a big deal, but maybe later on it inspired someone else, or it was able to help someone else, because you were able to move past that
Hmm.
thing?
Oh man, there are just so many, but I think for one of the biggest stories I guess that's standing to me now is going through a divorce and having five babies at the time, and not really knowing which way I was going to go. Or you always have your family help, or sometimes your parents helping and things like that, but just really in myself in those dark hours, those nights when you're thinking, and it's like, how in the world am I going to take care of five babies? They were all in middle school and elementary school at the time, and how am I going to take care of myself, provide for them, but have a better life? And sometimes you get on the system, and it's almost sometimes seem like if you stay a little too long, it's hard to get off, and then you become dependent. And so you're looking at all these things trying to raise babies. And I just remember that saying to myself, I have to do more so that I can be able to take care of my family. And so it was a rough process. It was a lot to think about, but little by little, I found a way to take care of my babies. And one day I said, I wasn't going to work and I was going to go to school full time. And I did. And finally, year after year, of going to school. I mean, I even went to college, to community college with some of my kids. But hey, I did it. And so that kind of stuck out to me, and definitely being able to tell other women they can do that as well.
Okay, so this is my next question to you, because I believe what you have said is so powerful, and I hope y'all are catching this. Like it
Mhm.
reminds me of the verse, going from glory to glory, and even in those challenging moments, it's just so amazing to me that you're still standing here as a testimony that there is another side to it. So how have you prepared? Like when I think about different stages in life, whether it's preparing for marriage or a
Mhm.
home or whatever that elevation is, there's a certain posture, a stature, a mindset that we have to step into that next level without having to keep circling the same mountains. So
Mhm.
what has that posture been for you anytime that you're preparing yourself for elevation in your life? How do you prepare?
Definitely spending time in prayer. That's the biggest thing. Meditating, knowing that I don't have enough strength in myself to do it myself, depending on God. And just spending that time knowing that there's a step that I need to take. One of the biggest things that I failed to mention that really helps me with everything is writing the vision down and making it plain. If I can tell you more than anything that works. When you have a goal or a dream, or you're moving to the next place or position in life, you need to write those things down and say, hey, this is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. Just plan even short-term goals, whatever that thing is that you want to do, you put it down, whether you feel like you can do it or not. And that's the thing that starts exercising your mind and putting yourself in a mindset that when you start checking off these things, because these are things that are taking place in your life, it grows your faith, it grows your strength. And after a while, you say, let me think of what else I want to do. And just watching those things take place.
So I would love, because you've been so transparent too, and speaking about going through divorce. I too have gone through divorce. I know that there are probably women watching who can relate to your story. So I'm sure somebody wants to know the answer to this question, because you now share, like, you're now a wife. You are again on the other side of some of these things that you face. How was that process, having come out of divorce, having 5 children, and then going back into this place of wife? What was that process like, and what encouragement or tips would you share with the woman that is looking at you for inspiration right now?
Absolutely. As always, it's a process. Number one, stop listening to everybody and anybody. You need to find a mentor, someone that can help you in each season, because sometimes it may not be the same person. But if you're wanting to be a wife, if that's a desire of yours, find someone who you can tell, or they are living testimony of what a marriage should look like. Even for me, it was a process. It was 10 years before I got remarried. And I decided for myself that I wanted to get my kids through school, because that was something big for me. Just being able, I wanted to put my focus and attention on them. And that's not something you have to do, but that's something I did. And so I think you should stay true to yourself, stay true to your goals. Definitely put down what you want in a marriage. And don't think of anything less, exactly what you want. Make sure that person is bringing something to the table. And the biggest thing, if you have children, a lot of times single moms say, hey, I'm ready to get married. But are you really, when it comes to those children, are you really ready for your husband to come in and help you to bring structure to the home? And so those are some of the things, and those are things that I had to do with my kids, because they were high school age kids then. And so I had to make a determination to set the atmosphere for our home together. And I had to talk with him about how he viewed raising children, all of those things. And so anything that you think of that needs to be brought to the table, bring that, because you could have different views in parenting and don't even know it. And so that will cause a lot of stress in the marriage. But definitely praying on it, finding a mentor, and seeing where that other person stands to see even if it will fit for you.
Look, you just wrote like 4 books in this one episode that we can glean from. So at this point, I know I feel like this has been such a good meal. So for those that want to learn more about Created with Resilience, can you tell us how we can get connected with you, support you, and even what to expect, like what's on the horizon?
Okay. You could definitely get in touch with me on my website, which is createdwithresilience.org. I would love to have a talk with you. I also do motivational speaking in every area dealing with the family. Of course, my passion is for women, for children as well, parenting skills. I do those things for businesses. Also, if you have a goal and there's something you want to do, you can reach me on Facebook Messenger. I'm in the process of getting my work Facebook page together for my business. But the information on my website is there, and I would love to help you with those things. A lot of things that are up and coming is I would like to do something with blended families and also relationships with fathers and their daughters. So be looking very soon for those things.
I love it. Oh, Krishanda, this has been so good.
Yes, I've
So
enjoyed it.
encouraging. I just want to say thank you for taking time out to share today and just pay it forward with everything you've been able to learn. You're pouring back. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I've enjoyed it.
Me too. For those of you that are watching, if you're wondering, how can I support? How can I get the message out? Subscribe. Subscribe here to the channel. Tell someone, share this episode, tag a friend, and just encourage someone else. And if you want to stay connected with me, you can do so across social media at Erica Empowers. As I'm always telling y'all, go out and make today amazing. It doesn't matter what happened this morning, yesterday, or last week. You only have right now. So make it amazing, so amazing that people can't help but just find joy when they're in your presence. And that is it, y'all. Tag a trailblazer, tell someone, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.
For more inspiration, visit us online